Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, U.S. Senator Richard Shelby will not seek re-election. Also, the V-Team takes a look at monument bills. And there's a grand gaming plan making its way through the legislature. Luke, that was hard. Will it come out the other end? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Hey guys.
Well, at least you remembered everybody's name today, right?
Yeah,
Wow,
good week for him.
that's-
Good week for him.
That's cold.
Yeah,
That's
well,
just cold. It's cold. I didn't forget your name. I just couldn't remember who you were.
COVID days, baby, COVID days.
Oh, God. Well, Senator Richard Shelby has announced that he will not seek re-election in 2022. And I do not think that people truly understand what this man's life and legacy has meant to the state of Alabama. From the top of the state to Mobile Bay, Richard Shelby has affected the lives and the businesses in every county in Alabama. And no matter who we elect, there will not be a Richard Shelby for 20 years.
Well, and just to name a few in the last little bit here, $1 billion for HQ2, which would be an FBI facility in Huntsville. He's got the U.S. Space Command to Huntsville. The Port Authority grants that he got were extraordinary to be able to widen the port and deepen it so that we can get the bigger carriers in here. That'll be advantageous to the entire state.
And Josh, I know that you've not always agreed with Senator Shelby's policy decisions, but there's no denying that he has done a great job for the state as far as economic development and creating a better, brighter future.
Yeah, we mentioned on our podcast this week, as Alabama Politics this week, shameless plug there for the podcast, I wouldn't, really agree with a lot of the policy decisions that Richard Shelby has been on the side of. But I'll say this: you're right about bringing home the money for the state and backing important projects here in the state. But more importantly, the last 4 years here, especially, I think a lot of people, myself included, have come to really appreciate the statesmanship and professionalism of Richard Shelby when so many people were acting a fool to get attention and to get cheap votes and that sort of thing. Richard Shelby stayed above all of that. And it's really how politics used to be. Was, you went, you did a job, people elected you to do a job well, not to be a moron on camera all the time. And I think that is what I have really appreciated, especially the last 4 or 5 years from Richard Shelby.
He has stayed above the fray. Mm-hmm. He's kept moving forward. He's kept Alabama his focus. And, there is a segment of the Republican Party that does not appreciate the job that he's done, because unlike Jeff Sessions, he was not a firebrand. He didn't yell about international issues or border issues or any of that stuff. He worked diligently to represent Alabama.
And in that, one of the Republican mottos is that bring business. They're about business. Well, Shelby brought tons of business to Alabama. Tons of it.
Well, he will be replaced in 2022, and there's the usual suspects, of course, but there too many of them are on this far right side that are screaming about socialists, and I'm going up there to fight Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, they don't care about the senator from Alabama unless he's a Senator Shelby. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, look, here's the thing that I wish Republicans in this state would keep in mind here, is everybody that you're going to send there is going to be opposed to most of the Democratic agenda, okay? There's nobody that you're going to send from the list that's not going to be opposed to that. So this, the morons that are up there screaming about things, you can shut them out and ask people what they're legitimately going to do. What are their plans? How are they going to get money in? What is their focus? How are they going to address the key issues of this state? And elect that person or nominate that person, and then maybe they can beat the Democrats.
Well, the thing is, Mo Brooks is at the top of the list. I mean, people are already pushing for Mo Brooks to be the senator. Susan, can you imagine somebody with the mental mindset of Mo Brooks joining as a junior senator to Tommy Tuberville, who will be the senior senator?
We're already embarrassed enough with Tuberville. I can't imagine Mo Brooks, who stood in the Trump rally and agged on that crowd, being a senaner. No.
But he has said if all the pieces fall in the right place, he's running. We know that Katie Boyd Britt, head of the BCA, is a contender. She hasn't made any allusions to what she's going to do. So is John Merrill, Steve Marshall. Will Ainsworth has told us he is not running. He will not seek the Senate seat. Jim Ziegler probably will run. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I would assume that Gary Palmer and Robert Adderholt will take a strong look at it as well there. But at this point in time, you look at all the polling, and Mo's at the top of the heap. And a lot of that is name recognition, and it's a shame that is the standard. Shout loud enough, be a big enough crazy person, and we'll give you votes.
I mean, every day we get press releases from him where it's socialist this, anti-Christian Democrats that. I would hope to remind Representative Brooks, who is a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, commonly referred to as Mormons, that to judge Democrats on their religion is probably a bad thing. If you look at the statistics, there are more people who identify as Democrats and Christian than there are Republicans. That's a fact. Yeah. So if you want to attack people for being anti-Christian Democrats, you might want to have your facts and figures.
And don't forget, when you point one finger at somebody else, you're pointing three back at you.
We got about 15 seconds.
I just like to point out too, real quick, Jesus was a known liberal,
So Jesus was a liberal. Okay, you're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
So you got caught speeding. But this time you got more than a ticket.
What are you in for?
Vehicular homicide.
Stop speeding before speeding stops you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Your career isn't a job, it's a journey. Your next job could lead to bigger things, and you're in charge of how fast and how far you want to go. At alabamaworks.com, you can connect with employers and start working right now. Then chart your path forward with training and career planning tools. That next paycheck is great, but it's only the beginning. Start a great success story at alabamaworks.com.
A lot can change in 5 years. Except those smile lines you treated with Bellafill. Because that's about how long Bellafill will keep them smooth and filled. 5 years. Now you can always look your best without all those injections, appointments, and costs. Bellafill is the only dermal filler that stimulates and maintains collagen growth long term. Now time is on your side.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. The legislature this week sent the bills to Governor Ivey, and she signed them, and they were the Jobs Act and the Growing Alabama Act. They are both incentive programs to lure businesses to Alabama, to convince them to come to Alabama, and then also to promote the businesses here to grow their footprint in the state. Susan, they were sponsored by Greg Reed, Senator Greg Reed, President Pro Tem, and Representative Bill Poole, two of the very level-headed members of our congressional delegation here in Alabama. Looks like these do good for business. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. The Jobs Act, if a company increases jobs, by 50 jobs, they'll receive a 3% of last year's wages in cash and a 1.5% tax credit for any capital investments they have. And this is available for the next 10 years. Right,
and Josh, this has gone up by approximately, it's 300 million, has been around 300 million, it's now 300 million, 325, and then it'll go up to 350 million. That is a lot of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, it is, especially for there being not a whole lot of evidence that they matter a whole lot, and your workforce and your other attributes being as important. We've seen in studies over and over. And I know Republicans will cite that we've attracted a lot of businesses here in the state, but I don't know that we would necessarily have been on the backside of those things had we not offered up, crazy incentives to people. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of the incentive packages that we offered to people were far less than what other states offered. So, there was something that those people had seen here in the land costs and in the workforce development aspect of this that didn't have anything to do with the economic incentives. And so I think that a lot of times we get caught up, and I'm not saying they're all bad, okay? I'm not saying that at all, but I do think that a lot of times we get caught up in this just handing out money to businesses to create jobs when it's not necessarily the right thing to do. And I think you could focus on so many other things like healthcare, options here in this state that would greatly improve our attractiveness to a lot of other businesses.
Well, and I agree, and I think we need to be mindful that there's three legs on the economic development stool. One is, you have to have a good infrastructure. You have to have a good work environment. You have to have employees, and then you have to have a quality of life. Right. And where we fall down a lot of times is by offering people a quality of life that compares to, say, some of these other states. Because we are such a red state, sometimes the issues we take up actually do harm to development rather than doing good. But the Grow Alabama Act is for special projects, and there is a lot of money in that. The program is going to be raised from 10 million to 20 million, Susan, and it's really for accelerators and special projects like that.
5 million in there. It's going to include economic development, including industrial parks and research parks, but it's all and that involves the 10 to 20 million. But it's also got 5 million in there for rural counties and 4 million in there for tech accelerators.
So that'll be good. If you look at the tech place in Huntsville, can't remember the name of it right now. Super extraordinary place, really attracting a lot of business up there.
Yeah, and I do personally like more incentives for businesses to grow, to help businesses grow. Again, I feel like that you're right about the quality of life problems and the infrastructure things. That was part of the reason why we went after the gas tax a few years ago. To try to improve our roads and other things here. And that's the other reason why I like the gambling bill is because of the infrastructure and IT expansion that is involved in that. And I think those sorts of things are what hold you long term. I mean, you can't just keep selling cheap labor, man.
Well, it's Alpha Hudson, and
Right.
we've toured that facility and that industrial park up there, and it is state of the art. It's magnificent. They do a great job up there. I want to switch on to some more hot button issue. There was a bill proposed to repeal the Alabama Memorial Preservation Act and turn that decision making of whether to have Confederate statues in a city or a county, turn that over to the local authorities and give those monuments to the Alabama Archives and History so that they would take care of them, preserve them, the Department of Archives and History. That, Josh, didn't come out of committee. It basically is shelved. I don't know if it's dead. Usually they're dead when they don't come out of committee.
When you hear the word subcommittee, that's basically the same thing as we're killing this baby. And that's that's not surprising. It's a shame that it is that way, but it's not surprising that bill died. I think that everybody could see that kind of coming. It's unfortunate. As I think we said, as I said last week, I don't really understand how you can't comprehend the hurt and the offensiveness that having a statue honoring people that fought for slavery would do to a certain segment of our population and our fellow citizens here. I can't see why you wouldn't be able to realize that. And this bill did not destroy the monuments. As a matter of fact, it protected the monuments.
There are people who will argue that this is part of their Southern heritage and they do not want it desecrated. They don't want it removed. I don't happen to agree with that argument, but this bill would have done both those things. It would have not desecrated it. It would have just moved them to a historical site, which makes more sense to me. I want to get to this real quickly. We don't have much time. The new bill that will strengthen the Memorial Act was written according to two members of what's been classified by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group. Two members of that group, the bill's sponsor said, did help write the new one.
It's the Southern Cultural Center.
Southern Cultural Center in Wetumpka. I don't know that we want members of an identified hate group writing our laws any more than we want just any other crazy writing our laws. But there you go. We're gonna have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. There has been a grand deal lottery and gaming proposal. It came out of committee this week. It's sponsored by Senator Dale Marsh, and it is getting very favorable reviews. We have to acknowledge that there are people in our state that think that gaming is immoral. They think that it preys on the poor. They believe that it is bad for society. And there are ills accompanied with gambling. I have written about those ills and talked about those ills, as have you and Josh. But this bill, Josh, you studied it more than anybody, and I know you know more about gaming than probably anybody in the state. And you seem to think it's a pretty good bill. You think it could be better, but overall, politics is the art of the possible.
Right. Yeah. It's the first test of whether or not it's a good bill is can it pass. And that this one has a big leg up on most of the previous bills in that it has agreement from the major parties involved, and that being the Porch Creek Indians and the dog track owners in the state, who have historically resisted one another trying to come up with a gaming plan here. And so, but they've come together, put their 2 cents into this, allowed Del Marsh to put some other things in, and taken some advice from other people around the state, and I think they've come up with a pretty good bill. It needs to be a little more defined in some certain areas, and I would like to see a certain number of things included in it, such as a repeal of the grocery tax. I believe that when you talk about taxes on the poor, which is a fair argument, I think, although this is it's a tax that you choose to pay here, where those other ones are not. If you could take away a tax in there too, I think that would make a huge difference for a big segment of the population. But overall, the bill would have gambling at 8 full casinos at 8 locations. That's the 3 current Porch Creek facilities, 4 current dog track locations, and then 1 additional location in northeast Alabama, would be probably somewhere around Fort Payne. And then in addition to that would have a lottery, and at all 8 of the casino locations you would also have sports wagering, and we would have a new gaming commission to oversee all this stuff. So it's a grand deal. All right, it's a big deal. It's a big change for the state, and it's a ton of money.
And the basic change here is we already have gambling. I'm not a gambler. I'm terrible at it. But we already have gambling here. We're just not, the state's not making any money off of it.
Right. There's no revenue.
That's the only real difference.
And it's not well regulated. I mean,
it's not.
It's self-regulated by the tribe, follows the regulations that they're bound to. The other track owners do the same. But again, we need an overarching, this is how it works. We need to legalize it, regulate it, and tax it. And one of the things we would be remiss without saying is that this is a constitutional amendment. It has to go to a vote of the people.
Right.
The people of Alabama will have final say, as they should.
Exactly.
I may not like a lot of the laws that we have on the books here today, but if the people voted on them, I'm stuck with them until we can convince voters not to. But Josh, can you give us a little bit about how the money is allocated? I know it's a little bit of a moving target, but there are some big chunks that go places. Yeah.
So one of the biggest pieces of this is the lottery revenue that's going to come in, and the lottery revenue, 100% of that will go to scholarships. That is kind of a moving target as well, because there's going to be a formula there to determine needs there in addition to qualifications for the scholarships, and I also involved in that. I would like to also have those tech programs and scholarships of those tech programs funded a little bit more, so the people that go through there could also take part of this, and hopefully that will be the case. And for the casinos, it's a percentage structure. So we start off with a percentage going to IT infrastructure, and which the first $1 billion is going to go simply to broadband expansion in the state. Then we have rural health care services are going to get a chunk of money. Mental health services is going to get a chunk of money. The counties and municipalities are going to get a little portion of that as well to go into that for infrastructure and things like that. And then there's going to be a portion that goes to infrastructure overall. So we're going to spread things around a lot. like I said, when you say the term rural health services, I'd like to know a little bit more about what that means. But I think we can get to the definition of those things, and I think although I would say a Medicaid expansion component in here would help out a lot as well.
Well, that's one of the things I was thinking about before you brought it up, Susan. I mean, we have every indication that the Congress under President Joe Biden will states that have ignored Medicaid expansion, that they will get a second bite at the apple,
Right.
Without having to pay for the first few years.
Right, exactly. And this is the perfect opportunity for Alabama to begin to put some savings back. So we can take care, go ahead and get in on the Medicaid now, and with a cushion to know that, to give us a transition point into where we have to pay a certain percentage.
And I don't think it's without a certain bit of interest that it was Lurleen Wallace who signed Medicare, Medicaid into existence now.
An executive order.
Yeah, she did it. And Governor Ivey has pointed to the good things of Lurleen Wallace's administration,
Which
that
is
she
another one
admired.
is mental health.
Mental health. So this could be an opportunity for Governor Ivey to do what Lurleen Wallace did, is take something that benefited a lot of people and get it done.
Yeah, listen, this gambling bill, if we do it the right way, could fundamentally alter the way we do things in this state, and it could help millions of people for generations to come. All right, if we do it the right way, it could do that, and you're not losing hardly anything. You're not risking hardly anything to do it, because we do already have the gambling here. We got the gambling all around us. So all we're missing is the components where we get the money and the revenue and help the people off of it. So,
and the other thing is Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Care Act, is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's like so many things. If it's there, you might as well use it. That's what it's there for. So I guess that's going to be the last word. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.